It's 6 o'clock, and I'm calling the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of November 7th, 2024 to order. May we begin with roll call? Here.
Right? I'm here. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. Hector J. Garcia.
I'm usually last.
Cindy E. Cantu.
Here.
Michael Barron. Johnny M. Narvaez.
Present.
Jean Belmares.
Present.
Regina Portillo.
Present.
Daniela Sadapaz. And Adolfo G. Martinez. For the record, you do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Can I have a motion to excuse those commission members that are not
So
present?
moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is election of officers.
We tabled that, we didn't say we tabled it to the new year.
Oh, did we?
Promising it was tabled till after the election.
Yeah.
Which was,
The election's not over, there's still one more seat.
Yeah, there's still one more going.
Motion to table till after that, after the December the 14th, January 1st.
So last meeting of the
Year.
last meeting of the year.
So we have a motion to table the election of officers to the last meeting of 2024.
And a second.
Second by Commissioner Bernardes. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Now we're moving on to consider approval of minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from October 3rd and October the 17th.
We have a motion by Commissioner Garcia,
Second.
second by Commissioner Caceres. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Any general citizen comments?
None yet.
Okay. Moving on to opening public hearing and recommendation of an ordinance. Item 7A. Public hearing,
It's a public hearing?
yes.
Motion to open public hearing number 7A.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Portillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item 7A is public hearing and recommendation of an ordinance for the voluntary annexation and initial zoning of an M1 light manufacturing district on a tract of land totaling 8.55 acres, more or less as described by meets and bounds in the attached Exhibit A and known as Annexation Tract 5, All Carriers Tract, located south of FM 1472 and southeast of Diesel Road.
We have a brief presentation.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have the applicant Lucia Elizondo Baez, All Carriers Inc. We have engineer Daniel Gomez Engineering. Request and property description, voluntary annexation and proposed initial zoning of M1 for annexation tract 5, 8.55 acres located south of FM 1472 and southeast of Diesel Road. Proposed use is an M1 light manufacturing for warehousing. Letter sent for 5, we have none for, none against. Location view. Street view. 200-foot notification. Aerial view. Zoning map. Future land use map. Survey of the annexation. And the recommendation is staff supports the proposed annexation and staff supports the proposed initial zoning. And the proposed motion.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item?
Good evening, I'm Daniel Gomez, and we're seeking the annexation for this property, and I'm here to see if you have any questions. I'll be glad to respond.
Are there any questions for Mr. Gomez? Or for staff?
I didn't hear one what he said. That's okay.
I know, we were just thinking, is it the other one?
This one?
Possibly.
This one?
Yeah, but it's okay. I'm deaf again.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Are there any questions for staff? I believe there's another.
Motion to close and go with the recommendation of approving.
We have a motion by Commissioner Garcia
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Cantu. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Motion to open public hearing 7B.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Caceres, all in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Item 7B, public hearing and recommendation of an ordinance for the voluntary annexation and initial zoning of M1 Light Manufacturing District on a tract of land totaling 13.4940 acres, more or less, as described by meets and bounds in the attached Exhibit A, and known as Annexation Tract, Zuniga Tract, Tract 6, Zuniga Tract, located west of West Peak Road and north of El Pico Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have the applicant Eduardo Omar Zuniga. Engineer is Gilpin Engineering. Request and property description, voluntary annexation and proposed initial zoning of M1 for annexation tract 6, 13.490 acres located west of West Peak Road and north of El Pico Road. Proposed use is light industrial for warehousing. Letter sent for 8. We have none for, none against. Location view. Street view. 200-foot notification. Aerial view. Zoning map. Future land use map. Survey of the annexation. Staff recommendation is staff supports the annexation and supports the proposed initial zoning. And the proposed motion.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor or against this item?
The engineer of record is not here, but he
Yeah.
did confirm.
Okay, he did confirm that he
Yes, he was contacted, he did confirm.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff?
Motion to close the public hearing and recommend supporting staff's recommendation on both the annexation and the initial zoning.
We have a motion by Commissioner Velazquez,
Second.
second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Motion to open public hearing 7C.
Second.
Motion and a second by Commissioner Portillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item 7C, public hearing and recommendation of an ordinance for the voluntary annexation and initial zoning of M1 Light Manufacturing District on a tract of land totaling 120.32 acres, more or less, as described by meets and bounds in the attached Exhibit A, and known as Annexation Tract 7, Batrop RM Investments Tract, located north of FM 1472 and west of FM 3338.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have applicant Shashi Vaswani, Bastrop RM Investments LLC. Engineer, we have Sherpy Engineering Company. Request and property description, voluntary annexation and proposed initial zoning of M1 for annexation tract 7, 120.32 acres located north of FM 1472 and west of FM 3338. Proposed use is M1 for warehousing. Letter sent or 15. We have none for and none against. Location view. Street view. 200-foot notification. Aerial view. Zoning map. Future land use map. Survey of the annexation. And the recommendation is staff supports the proposed annexation and supports the proposed initial zoning. And the proposed motion.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against this item?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Frank Estrada with Sherfy Engineering, here to speak in favor of the item and answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for the engineer record or staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
Just curious about the zoning recommendation, like for this item and the previous one. Why is it still designated like a residential area if it's clearly industrial in the area?
That's what the comp plan says. It would need to be updated. Now, the comp plan does update once the zone is changed. So by de facto, the action of changing the zone does change the identification in the comprehensive plan, but it doesn't change the surrounding area, so they remain as initially identified when adopted.
So if we look at our plan, it'll show like industrial and then it'll recommend low-density residential right next to it?
Exactly, because the zones have changed, and so the designation have changed for the locations where the zone has changed, but the comp plan future land use has not on those locations where there is no zone or there hasn't been a zone change.
And how can we, like, change that in the future so
We
that?
would need to update the future land use map.
Okay, but that does happen every year, right?
No, we update and adopt the comprehensive plan yearly before the budget is required by charter. And we typically amend our thoroughfare plan. The future land use doesn't really get revised. We do have it on our list of projects that we would like to see initiated to do sort of a re-update of our future land use.
Okay, I guess I'm, like, what gives me pause is like, if, let's say we wanted a developer to develop a low-density residential, like, project next to an M1, can they do that since our zoning recommends that?
Well, they would have to get the zone to match that identification. So it would have to go through this whole process to get that zone. Right here, all of these locations are outside of the city limits. So what's happening right now is bringing it inside city limits. So the same thing that's going on here would have to go on in those locations to consider the annexation. And then at the time that the applicant would come in and say, oh, I want to do, a single-family residential subdivision, we're going to look at that and like, that does not, even though the comprehensive plan, it's in line with the comprehensive plan, we're gonna use all our planning tools. What are the existing uses? What are the surrounding zones? And if it is out of character with that area, we're gonna recommend against. Now, of course, that doesn't guarantee anything, but that would be our recommendation.
Okay, that's what I was curious about, was what staff would recommend in a case like that, so thank you.
Yeah, for the most part, we do not like to deviate from the comprehensive plan, but that being said, we do make sure that we employ all of our planning tools and not just the one. So we evaluate each case on its unique location and context and make sure that we look at, access, surrounding uses, surrounding zones, existing use, all of those elements figure into our position.
Okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just for staff, almost always when annexations are done, voluntary annexations, they typically always come in as R1 residential.
Used to be.
And
You
almost
and
always,
I
right?
are old enough to remember that
Right?
they once
So-
were always R1.
Always R1.
Always R1. I guess in the preceding 10 years or so, there's been a migration to ask for initial zone. So it is still the case that the applicants do have a 6-month window to ask for a zone free of charge. Another one, but you're correct. It used to be the case that all of them came in as R1.
But this is not your only bite at that apple. At some point, you're gonna come back when the person brings in a master plan, says, I'm gonna develop this.
Absolutely,
That's when we apply all our
in
tools
order
to it.
to, they'll have to plat, they have to go through the whole development process.
I just didn't want the general public to think that we're taking this in and that we would never have another opportunity to fix that, because she's absolutely right. I mean, we wouldn't want somebody to put a low-density residential right next door to an industrial park.
No, I mean, they would have to come in, they have to get annexed, they have to get their zoning, they have to do all of the regular development process.
Good call. A motion to close the public hearing and support staff's recommendation for annexation and initial zoning.
We have a motion by Commissioner Belmontes and a second by Commissioner Portillo. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Moving on to consideration of following preliminary plats and preliminary replats. Item 8A, preliminary consideration of the plat of Las Manadas Industrial Park, Phase 1. The intent is industrial.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have applicant Urban Development LLC, engineers KCI Technologies, proposed use is industrial. The zoning for this 3-lot development is M1. Location view. Aerial view. Proposed plat. Staff comments planning. Fire. Parks and Leisure. And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. For the record, Ivan Morales with KCI Technologies. I came to represent my client, Herd Urban Development. And I went ahead and reviewed all the comments when we received them, and I wanted to say that I concur with all the comments that were given to us upon our preliminary plat review.
Are there any questions for the engineer record or for staff?
Mr. Chair, just,
Yes.
can you go back and put the location view? Okay, and then the next one is, okay, I'm just getting my bearings straight. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve subject to staff comments.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blanes, second by Commissioner Cantu. All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carries. Moving. You want to ask? You good?
I'll let Gene later.
I think that's it.
Moving on to item 8B, preliminary consideration of the plat of Lot 12, Block 8, Alexander Commercial Subdivision, Phase 15. The tent is commercial.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have D&J Alexander Investments as applicant. Engineers Premier Engineering. Proposed use is commercial. The zoning for this 1-lot development is B3. Location view. Aerial view. Proposed plat. Staff comments planning. Parks and Leisure. And the proposed motion.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, staff. My name is Armando Guerra, for the record, with Premier Engineering representing the client, and we concur with staff's comments.
Any questions for the engineer record or for staff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve subject to staff comments.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blanes,
Second.
second by Commissioner Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to item 8C. Preliminary bless you. Preliminary consideration of replat of D&J Alexander Phase 15, Alexander Crossing Plaza, Lot 5, Block 1, into Alexander Villas at Alexander Subdivision, and the granting of a variance to increase the dead-end street threshold from 500 to 560 feet. The intent is residential.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, we have Claudia J. Martinez Briones as the applicant. Engineer is Premier Engineering Serving. Proposed use is residential. The zoning for this 28-lot development is B1 and B3. Location view. Aerial view. As platted. Proposed replat. Staff comments planning. Fire, Parks and Leisure. And the proposed motion.
Thank you. Engineer record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. It is Armando Guerra for the record with Premier Engineering representing the client. We concur with staff's comments, but we were going to see if we could add a possible clarification to comment number 2. I don't know if you can go back to the comments. And it's just because the comment, staff used the language that's from the ordinance, which specifically for a dead-end street, it calls for a cul-de-sac basically. But the fire department and the fire code allows for other types of turnarounds, which is the hammerhead or the wipe. In our case, we're using the hammerhead, and we just wanted to make sure to clarify that we are able to use an alternate turnaround design as approved by the fire department. And that was a request.
Just to clarify something,
Yes.
once the street goes over 150 feet, you're required to have a turnaround, correct? And the fire code has 5 different types, but if there's another city ordinance that requires it to be a cul-de-sac, ours is not gonna circumvent
supersede.
that one. In other words, they would put the cul-de-sac and it would meet code and whatever planning's comment. So we're not saying it has to be one of these other ones, it's one of these options. But I'm not sure if planning's requiring them to have a cul-de-sac.
Planning, what's your,
stance? Or what's?
Well, where we're coming back with is we're seeing what the ordinance requires, and that's where our framework is. So I do know that the fire does have those other alternatives, but the ordinance does call for cul-de-sac.
So in other words, I guess in this case, to meet both requirements, it would have to be a cul-de-sac. I just don't want you all to think that the requirements for those other turnarounds that are allowed would trump their requirement for a cul-de-sac.
Right.
I don't know if that clarifies it for you.
Yeah, but the hammerhead is allowed, right, in those situations?
It's allowed, right? You would, well, basically, I guess,
Yeah.
these are the 5 options that the fire code allows. I don't know if it's, these are the 5 options the code allows, so you can choose any one of these.
Right.
But see, in this particular instance, we have another ordinance that's mandating a cul-de-sac.
that
So-
over trumps that?
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you add their cul-de-sac, you're meeting their requirement and ours.
Right.
If you choose one of these other options, you're still meeting our requirement, but in that instance, now you're not meeting theirs.
Right.
But yeah, but in our case, so we're requesting so that it could also be
A variance
a variance. Well, the variance is for
the distance.
For the distance, yeah. But in this case, which is allowed by the fire code, it's just the way that the reason we're getting a hammerhead is because it works better with the lot layouts, and that's the only reason. But it complies, although it's not specifically called in the ordinance, it still meets fire code as.
Yeah, no,
Yes, yeah.
any one of these options do meet code.
Yes.
It meets this, but it doesn't meet what you're supposed to meet. Does that-
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, and does staff
This
have,
doesn't meet the subdivision ordinance.
Yeah, but it's still.
does staff have an
It still meets
objection to
fire.
the hammerhead?
We would like to adhere to the subdivision ordinance.
But do you have an objection? I know you'd like to appear, but is there an objection? There's one.
Well, our objection is that it doesn't comply with the subdivision ordinance.
I agree.
Changing that design, Mr. Chair, would
Yes.
would that be an issue for you all?
No, we can change it. I mean, if there's no way that we can, if there's no way that we can change it to, or to keep, actually, because right now it's a hammerhead. So they are approving it as a hammerhead right now. But they do have the comment of the cul-de-sac. We can arrange it, but would we need to resubmit to preliminary?
Property.
I'm sorry?
Like, would we need to resubmit for preliminary plat if we change it to a
Well,
cul-de-sac,
the
keeping the same amount of lots?
Well, the direction, it would be the direction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So the Planning and Zoning Commission says you must do the cul-de-sac, you can do the redesign and move forward to the West Side Park.
Does it comply with?
Mr. Chair, but
Doesn't comply with them because
the
it doesn't
commission
comply
could
with
also
the
say,
subdivision.
we're okay with the hammerhead design as well.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, and that's our request.
Where in the replat would that hammerhead be?
Oh, can you show the plat, please? It's on at the very end. Could you zoom in or? No, okay. So it's on
Mr.
the-
Chairman,
Yes.
Let me go a
Can
question.
you see it?
piggybacking on the chairman's question
yeah, I
about
can-
where it's located, does it have an impact to the general public?
Let me, Andrew, actually, we'll give a little bit of background on this. So, let me jump here. Okay. So this is the, let me zoom out a little bit so you can get a little bit of a reference as to where this is here. This is North Bartlett Avenue. This is University and Ray Bradbury. So this is the overlay of where the subdivision would be. Now, first of all, with regards to the variance request on the street length, the reason that is coming in is because you have the street coming right here, Thomas Harris Drive, okay? And in the ordinance, you're supposed to avoid having street jogs. So the distance from this intersection to the proposed intersection, if this was to come straight, would be less than 300 feet. So that would create it's a traffic hazard. So that's why they're wanting to close it off at the end. But this is how, under the current design, this is how the hammerhead is. The vehicles would come in this way, back in, and then back out.
Again, no, Mr. Chairman, no real impact on the general public, just those who are conducting business in that area.
In the subdivision.
In the subdivision, so it wouldn't be something that affects people who wouldn't necessarily have a reason to be there. And then you're all okay with the variance as well, Mr. Chairman? On the 500?
On the 500 feet,
Oh,
yes.
500, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because the other thing is, if, without the variance, then
Then
you
they'd
have
have
a
to-
traffic issue.
Then they'd have to go through,
That
so
would
yes.
have to punch through.
With-
Right, that would create a big traffic issue.
So all traffic would be going on to Raymond Chandler. Nothing's coming on to University
That is
Boulevard.
correct, Chairman.
Do
So-
we have any hammerheads like this anywhere else?
I'm not sure.
There are some, I have seen some in Laredo, in some other areas. They're very rare, but I have seen a few.
I wonder if it also poses like a safety hazard of just kind of having a
Well,
dark
it
corner.
meets fire code, so.
And is that the primary purpose,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, for that type of design, is for fire code?
Yeah, basically, it's for the fire truck to back
To be
up.
able to back up? And so, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
for both staff and the applicant, who's requesting the variance on the street size, on the length?
We are.
Sorry.
If not, then you all would just go ahead and punch through. If we didn't grant you the variance,
Yeah, we would have to make it, open it up.
and would that create an issue for staff?
The
So in
there's
essence,
two
his
variances, I guess, under consideration,
Right.
right? We definitely support the variance to the street length, right? Because without it, as they said,
And it
they would
does-
have to go through.
At that point, it does help you all in
At
your
that
planning.
point, yes. And then they're also requesting a variance for the type of cul-de-sac. So whether it be hammerhead or circular.
So you are helping them out to some degree. Okay, that makes sense. Then I would make the motion to approve both the variances subject to the remaining comments, because he is really helping you guys with this one issue. If not, he'd be punching through and we'd have a traffic issue as well. So,
Second.
So we have yes,
Can I make a comment before we vote?
yes.
Just side note, yeah, discussion.
Why have rules?
Yeah.
Sorry?
No, I'm saying why have rules if they're not gonna follow?
the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, sir. Go ahead.
Just a side comment, the name of this particular street may, well, it's a bit controversial, so just caution with that for J.K. Rowling.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So-
It's because, in the Alexander.
authors.
They're all authors.
Yeah,
so-
but just so you know, there's controversy with this particular one, so hopefully you don't get backlash.
Oh, okay, thank you, yeah, we'll definitely take into account.
So,
Motion.
so we have a motion by Commissioner Belmares, and we have a second by Commissioner Cantu. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
I'm against.
And I'm gonna have to be against as well, because I want to stick with the ordinance rules
Me too.
of the subdivision. But I believe you still.
Still 14.
Passes, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
4-2. Motion carries. Now moving on to, consideration
I'll
of,
put your names on it, so.
consideration of the following final plats and final replats. If there's no objection from staff or from commission to hear items 9A through 9F together, can I have a motion to hear those?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Portillo and a second by Commissioner Belmares. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Can we now have a motion of action on items 9A through 9F?
Motion to approve 9A to 9F.
We have a motion by Commissioner Garcia,
Second.
second by Commissioner Cantu. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Can we read those items into record?
They were
Please.
approved, yes, right?
Yes, approved.
Final consideration of the plat of Port Laredo Industrial Park Unit 3 and 4, previously named Stoughton Industrial Park, the intent is industrial, approved. Final consideration of the replat of Lot 2, Block 1, Resendes Plat, and Abstract 280, Porción 10, Tomás Sanchez, 2.5 acres, Track 11A, Las Minas Ranchitas, into Lot 2A, Block 1, Resendes Plat, the intent is industrial, approved. Final consideration of Embarcadillo, Southeast Quadrant, Phase 4, the intent is a private irrigation booster station, approved. Final consideration of the replat of lots 12, 13, 14, and 15, Block 1, San Miguel Subdivision at Plantation, into lots 12A, 13A, 14A, and 15A, Block 1, San Miguel Subdivision at Plantation. The intent is residential, approved. Final consideration of the plat of Los Presidenses East Subdivision, Phase 4, the intent is residential, approved. Final consideration of the plat of the Coves at Winfield, Phase 4B, the intent is residential.
Thank you. Now moving on to reconsideration of the following final plats and final replats. We have item 10A, which is the final consideration of the plat of Lago del Valle subdivision, Phase 10. The intent is residential. The purpose of this reconsideration is to correct a street name duplication. If Commission concurs, can we have a motion of action on item 10A?
Motion to approve the correction, the final consideration for the correction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Moving on to consideration of the model subdivision compliance, which is item 11A, consideration of model rules subdivision compliance for the plat of Lago del Valle subdivision, Phase 10. The intent is residential. Proposed action is approval. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Belmontes. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Now moving on to 12, staff presentation, 12A. Presentation by planning staff on the City of Laredo zone change process.
As soon as it comes up, we'll begin our presentation. Almost there. There we go.
Okay, the overview, which is the zone change process. In general, is the process by which a zone is changed or a zoning overlay is granted. It is governed by Chapter 211 by the Texas Local Government Code, and it is 2.5 months to complete the process if there are no delays. The zone change process of the order of how it goes, we have applications being submitted, then goes on to staff review, a 300-foot notification, and it's a 200-foot state law. And after that notification is done, we have planning and zoning meeting. Then we have our public notice, and then we have our city council introduction of ordinance, and then we have our city council final reading. We have our publication and execution, and finally we have our input into GIS. Application being submitted, the application must be submitted by the deadline. Application is inputted into the database, and the fees are being collected. Step 2 for staff review, and staff reviews the application for completeness. 24 to 48 hours to advise the applicant if it is complete, and update the online zone case spreadsheet to reflect notice and P&Z meeting date. Staff develops position, either support or does not support, and prepares the communication detailing all the specifics of the case. With the 300-foot notice, technically 200-foot state law, staff sends notice to all property owners within 300 feet of the property, advising them of the proposed zone change. Property owners may then send in their support or non-support for the proposed change. Letters are tallied, and the total property owners in support or not in support is included on the communication. The Planning and Zoning meeting staff provides a presentation on the application, including staff position. A public hearing is held. Public is allowed to comment. Planning and Zoning Commission provides recommendation, either recommendation of approval or denial. Appeal if recommendation is denial, and the applicant may appeal the recommendation and the item will continue forward to City Council. For public notice is the newspaper. This is done before the 15th day before the date of public hearing. A notice must be published in the newspaper of the proposed change and the date and time of the hearing. City Council introduction of the ordinance. So City Council holds a public hearing on the application. Staff provides a presentation on the item. The public is allowed to comment. The council decides to approve or deny the request. Approval, if approved, the case continues to final reading. If it is denied, the case stops there and the applicant must wait 3 to 6 months before resubmitting application. City Council for the final reading. The council gives final approval or denial. Approval, if it is approved, the case continues to execution and publication. If it is denied, the case stops there and the applicant must wait 3 to 6 months before resubmitting application. Execution and publication. City Secretary coordinates signature of the ordinance by legal department, City Secretary, and the mayor. City Secretary published the items in the newspaper. Executed ordinance is sent back to the department for filing and disbursement. And the final step is input into GIS. The zone change, whether CUP, SUP, or PUD, is then inputted into the GIS mapping system. Any questions?
Thank you very much. That was a very well developed presentation. That is basically all our steps in a nutshell. And as it said, it does take about 2.5 month process, and we make sure that our public is given opportunity to participate and give comment at every step of the way.
Just a quick observation. You can't come out with a timeline to get, 2.5 months is a long time. It used to be a lot shorter than this. How do we cut down the process where the turnaround is a lot quicker than we have? I think that's a complaint everywhere. You turn something in and you might get it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months.
I must disagree.
You can disagree, but dealing with the people outside
Well, I
deal with you all.
disagree in that it was shorter. I mean, I started doing zone cases
you've been here
25
forever.
years ago, and it's the exact same process. Our process is governed principally by our state law. As we mentioned, state statute prescribes the mail-out processes, the notification process, and the big delay factors are those requirements. Publication, so once planning and zoning gives their recommendation on the zone case, then we have to send to the newspaper before the 15th day before the public hearing. So that means by necessity, there's 20 days between this meeting and when it can go to council. So that's one of the big issues that causes the process to extend.
So can we get a timeline on exactly what you're saying?
The submittals.
In a piece of paper, it tells us that.
Sure.
It tells us the time, it just takes 30 minutes, and it takes a month or 2 months, or whatever the
3
situation.
days.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sure, we
just
can-
to
we can
piggyback on his
provide that.
question, what we'd like to see is a timeline, right, from input into the system and ready to come to for processing, it comes all the way through, and then the output, when it's finally at council for final reading. What's that timeline look like? If you can do it in.
About
in
2.5
like-
months?
Yeah, if you can do it like in a Gantt chart to show us, this
I
takes
think
this.
I
this
think we
takes-
have it on our presentation.
Do you all, I did,
But we can send it to you.
if you can do it like in a Gantt chart, just so that I could see.
Yeah.
The big question is, what happens if you miss any one of these? And-
Well,
and
then
how-
it has to be, like, let's say there was no quorum for planning and zoning, then we have to resend out the notices. So we have to send out the notices 10 days in advance. So if we have the 10 days available, we can get it onto the next meeting. If we don't, then it has to go to the next meeting. For example, at council, at the last city council meeting, I don't know if you recall, there was a lot of issues being dealt with at council, and they were not able to address a number of ordinance amendments that we had programmed. Well, because of the publication requirements, we have to republicize all of those cases. So instead of those cases being able to go forward to the very next council meeting, they have to go to a meeting a month away because of publication.
Is this a public, can the public comment? Sorry.
I don't think we have it as a public comment. I think it's just a presentation.
Sit down, stay there. No.
Again, and that's always been some of my concerns about tabling items or postponing items. For example, when the engineers weren't here and we would just table it, it has an impact. It could potentially have an impact.
Absolutely.
So-
We had an item that was tabled at the city council because, for whatever reason, the council person chose to table it. And then the item was then placed again. When it's tabled, we don't have to renotice. We don't have to send out the notifications again. So in that case, we were able to submit it for the very next council meeting. However, it was not addressed. So now we have to renotice. So that item has now been delayed probably 2 months.
Mr. So
Yes.
from an administrative or procedural standpoint, the council could have taken all of those items, said, motion to table these items, and then you all would not have to,
That's correct. Once if the council gives direction that the items are tabled, they're giving notice to the public that it is going to go back to this next meeting. So we're not required to resubmit or redo our mail outs and publication.
but in this particular case, you're saying time just ran out, nothing was done.
There was
nothing
nothing addressed, so we have to republish and do all of our mail outs again.
So the submittals happens once a month?
That's correct.
Having it done twice a month, would that be an option, or would that be?
I mean, we could submit twice a month, but it would speed up those people. They would have maybe, we would need more staff, first of all. So, we could do this all, have that extra, but we would just need more staff.
Well, we talked about, Mr. Chair, the last time when they were going to do the presentation about why they're raising certain fees and things of that nature. This is great justification for that. We'll open it up to twice a month, but it's going to require more staff. For us to be able to do that, well, then we need to raise some fees so that we can make that available to the general public for them to be able to come in and submit twice a month. And again, that's what I was looking for when you all were making that presentation about the fees that you all were going to raise, is what's the justification behind raising those fees? And if it's...
Well, the justification would be that the fees haven't been raised in eons. So that is the major justification.
The cost of a shoe for 25 years, why would I raise it? It's just...
Well, because the cost to produce that shoe has raised.
Potentially. So, and that's the justification you would come back and say, in that cost of that particular item, this has happened, right? And you could justify that for us. And that's what I was looking for when you were bringing those fees forward, is all the reasons why those should happen. Just because San Antonio's doing it, or because we haven't raised our fees in 10 years, is not justification enough.
You don't think? You don't think, the
Technology
typically
can-
TechStot, uses a 4% inflation factor every year. And we all know that just in the last, couple of years, inflation has been 6 to 9%. So inflation has been quite a factor
But technology
for all
has improved
services.
the processes where you can do things certainly faster. And so if I'm cutting time on one end, just because technology has become a force multiplier for that particular item, then why would I raise fees just because time has passed? I get the CPI issue.
But technology doesn't do these processes by themselves.
In some cases it does.
It's
Or it
people.
does allows
It's
you to
people
do
that's doing.
more at one time. Because technology allows you to do more than just what one person could do. And before, maybe that person now with technology can do 5 or 6, right? Again, there are reasons why when we look at certainly in my business, why we raise rates, folks. If we come to a point where we can no longer cut cost, then obviously that's what we do. We go out and raise our fees. But I look for efficiencies. I look for all other mechanisms to try to keep my prices in line before I go out and raise cost to somebody. And that's really what I was looking for. Have you all gone through all those processes? Is there places where you all could make it more efficient? There are places where maybe you have 4 or 5 people doing it. You can bring in technology to have only one person do it, so on and so forth. And at that point, you say, okay, well, I don't necessarily need to raise my fees.
Well, in the past 20 years, the planning department doesn't have more people.
Yeah.
It has less people doing much more. So
And technology has played a role in that.
The city is always very cognizant of being wise stewards of the public funds and looking for those efficiencies and, making sure that our resources are allocated as efficiently as possible. That is one of the primary goals of all city departments.
Sure.
So
one of my
that
favorite books is The Price of Government, and it's an interesting dynamic to read, when you read that book, on how that's not the first place government looks, is on efficiencies. It always looks on, well, how do I raise more fees? And then it looks at efficiencies later. Well, I need more people to be able to study this. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the fallacies of just growing government just to grow it. Certainly look for efficiencies.
I can justify raising the cost, but I also want to be able to give back better service, quicker service, because now you're justifying, I'm raising rate, but I'm going to do this, this, and this to make it easier for us or faster, not to just raise rate just to raise them and still you're in the same boat. And I know that you're understaffed. We understand that.
significantly.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have been for a long time.
No, I know. But if you say we're going to raise this rate because you're going to get 5 or 6 more employees, then you can justify. But if we're just throwing it into a pot just a pot of money, where's it going? Where's it going to? What are we going to get out of it? What are you all going to get out of it? Or what are the people?
It would be if there was a fee increase. Of course, we would make sure that we're on par with other similarly sized cities for the same services that are provided. However, if we would also, of course, make sure that we present the comparison between the department's budget and the fees that are raised. Currently, the fees are less than 30% of the departmental budget. So the development process is being subsidized pretty significantly by, the general fund, by other revenue sources rather than the fees for the applicants that are receiving those services.
True, but it is a domino effect. Mr. Chairman, the more development we get, the more jobs are created. The more jobs are created, more items that are purchased, more sales tax the city gets, and so on and so forth, more property taxes, and subsequently, by helping the development process, and although you're being subsidized, right, to be able to keep the planning department running, there are monies coming into the city that should go to planning zone because, again, you are helping stimulate that economy that eventually puts money back into the general fund that should come back over to you all. But in direct proportion to what someone pays to go to the window, this is an opportunity for you all to say, I can improve my service by giving you 2 submittal dates, but it's going to cost you a little bit more, and I guarantee you the general public would be okay with that because they're getting an immediate benefit for that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yes, of course.
I think just in general, I agree with Commissioner Garcia in that it's just about justifying whether it's saying like, look, we've already done all these process improvements. We're at a point where we need to increase because of XYZ reasons, because we're going to strive to hire this many people. Like, I think it's just justifying it with more detail because like Commissioner Benamares mentioned, saying like San Antonio charges this much or we haven't raised it in this many years, that doesn't feel like a solid business case to us to justify, something going up just because time has passed. But specifically, you can mention inflation rate and we need to buy paper and paper has increased costs, like kind of showing more detail behind that I think would be helpful.
Are there any other comments from the commission or questions?
And I saw the timeline. I did, they didn't mention it, so I had to look real close, I saw that.
Yes, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman, I
good
just have
presentation.
one more question.
Yes, sure.
So, I think it's the last slide about GIS. Is that, like, for PUDs and all of that, where is that, what is the website where we can access?
It's on the city's website. It's the
Is it the zoning one?
yeah, it's the mapping portal. So all of that is
So everything is?
it's all there.
Okay. And then I have a question about the notifications, like the mailers that we send out.
Mhm.
Can those be updated, like to just kind of revamp them a little bit? Because I know that sometimes we have people who show up for public comment or they're concerned about a zone change, but they don't fully understand. And they're just kind of like reading acronyms or like, you know, M1, AG.
On our mail out, it does identify M1 is light manufacturing district.
Right, but for example, we've had someone who came in thinking that it was about lighting, about that there was going to be light being manufactured, like, and so I'm just thinking like maybe there's a QR
Well, we do
code.
put our telephone number so that
Yeah.
anybody that has a question definitely can give us a call. And we do put a link so that they can look at all of our staff reports, so that they can read everything that we present to the commission. So we do try to make sure that, you know, that the public has as much access as they can to more than just, you know, the little mailer.
Yeah, I just think that they're not necessarily friendly to people who are not familiar with the process or with looking at city websites, and so I think a QR code could be handy.
Okay, we can take that
and
under
then
consideration.
I think also sort of like introduction line to say like what zoning means, like why, what does this mean? How is this going to affect me? And yeah, I think just generally that they're straightforward to us because we understand it, but to the general public or someone who is just, you know, sort of new to these things, that they kind of get a better idea. Because yeah, I think even like understanding, you know, B2 versus B4, like it's hard to see on a mailer, and we can't really fit it in there, but maybe somehow just letting you know, like, you know, this may affect your neighborhood or your area, or, you know.
Yeah, we can do that. We can definitely take a look at it and, you know, see where we can tighten it up.
Yes, and one just last item, piggybacking on that, on the mailers, only because we had a sidebar discussion after a meeting with you guys, and someone had mentioned that there was a consideration maybe someday of moving meetings to like San Antonio does, to mid-afternoon or morning, in the mornings. Do you all keep stats on how many people actually respond to these things in the, you know, 52 weeks that you all send out these notices, or in a year, how many responses do you get back, for and against?
Well, we do have to identify them and record them on the communications, so they're all there, but we don't keep a master listing of, like, on this zone case, we got 2 in favor, like a master list that is an aggregate of all the cases and how many responses
Would it be interesting to see how many notices the planning and zoning department sends out every year? I mean, that's again, justification of increasing
I mean, right now,
fees and stuff.
we have one ordinance amendment where we've sent out, over 400 notices, and we've done that probably we're gonna be on our 3rd or 4th time sending that out, so it's.
And then the responses would be, for me, and one of the, when people talk to me about, well, why is the city developing that way, or why did they put this here? I said, well, I don't know. You live within the 200 feet, why didn't you respond to the notice? Right? And sometimes I hear, you know, I didn't get the notice, but other times, well, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Okay, well, that's not on the city or on the planning department or anyone else for that matter. I mean, if it's important, you show. And again, coming back to changing the meetings to morning, how many people really show up to these things? And how many of them do we really get that we would show up to? In my lifetime, I've gotten maybe 2 notices of a zone change of some sort that was gonna either impact my business or my residents. That's, 61 years. Not that I would have read the first 20, but after that. But anyway, I mean, that's the only reason why I ask, because I think it's good information for the general public, for us to be able to defend the planning staff when you all do make decisions about why we need to raise fees. Well, let's look at how many we send out. Well, in the decisions we've made, well, we did notice you, just you didn't respond.
Yeah, as we indicated in our presentation, the state law does require that notices that mailers are sent to everybody within the 200-foot radius. However, per our leadership from council, we have increased our mail out to the 300-foot radius. So that has increased our notification, I guess, requirements.
But the responses have been the same or less, right? I mean, the people don't really respond to them. I mean, I saw one, well, obviously I saw one that you sent out, but there's nobody around for 200 feet. It's an undeveloped tract of land. But we've seen others where, I mean, you've got some really big density and crickets, nobody comes.
Yeah, that's correct. You never know. It varies. I mean, I guess it just depends on.
Is there a better method to get in touch with the citizen than sending a piece of paper? Because if you actually go through, since we've been here, I don't think I've seen one that somebody will send 00, nobody responds. Majority. Yeah, by the time they give us a presentation, they'll, one person, 2 people. We don't know that because it's not in any of our paperwork. It's on the presentation, but it's not in front of us.
Because
So if you send out 400, real quick, if you send 400, 300, you're getting 2, are we really spending money the wrong way? Is there another way where?
Notice, a better way to notice.
There has to be.
Well,
I know what the state requires, right?
Yeah.
we can't get away from the 200-foot. We have to send out those notices.
But do you have to send out a notice? Can you send out a text? Can you send out what can we do to cut down the cost?
We can't text.
So-
The state law says it has
Well,
to be.
that's what I'm asking.
It has to be by mail. We have to mail out.
Has to be mine.
Yeah, we have to mail out to them.
Snail mail.
Mail or mail email?
No, it doesn't say email.
Mail?
No,
That's it.
it says mail.
Yeah,
Mail.
Okay,
So
I got it.
we over notice, and there are some things to be considered there, because we have considered in the past to increase our notice requirements, but there were some concerns that over noticing might trigger over non-support, right? So it unfairly sort of trigger opposition, right, to a case, because sort of unfairly in that it's so far out, noticing to more and more people. So, all of these things have been considered, just many, many times, but, we did take our direction from council. We follow their leadership. So far, we are happy with the noticing that we're getting. We do get people that participate. I mean, you've seen, they come if something is
Contentious.
yes, is contentious in their neighborhood. So we have to do it. The reason why oftentimes you don't see it on your communication is because we send out 10 days prior to, because once the item is submitted to us, we have to develop those maps and develop that notice. Those things don't happen instantly. So it takes us a little bit of time to develop those items and get it in the mail. So by the time those 10 days, that we start getting responses, it's not by the time we send out your packet, right? The responses start sort of trickling in probably the week of P&Z. So that's when we start seeing them. If we had them by the time that put out our packet, we would definitely include them, but oftentimes we don't have.
Can I ask a quick question? For tonight, your package, is it updated?
Package as
Your package in the sense that this is how many response we got and all that?
We didn't have any zone cases today.
Huh?
We didn't have any
But when
zone.
we do, is it updated? Ours say 0-0. What does yours say? Or what does yours say?
So
On,
the
on the, when you're
Number of
contacting.
respon- number of
the
So the date,
responses
the
and all
date of
that.
the publication of the packet, that's the data that we have that day.
All the information that, prior to that, that's going to be presented to us, is your package updated by this meeting?
Yes.
yes.
Why
Because I'm
does it
trying to-
present it on the
I'm trying to
overhead?
follow you. We,
I said, we get a
Receive a
package, like you said, we
letter.
get a package
Yeah.
a week ago.
yes, we put out the package on Friday.
As of,
Then you
like,
get
the
more
day of
information
At the
before
moment,
meeting.
that it is as current as the information that we have at the time that we put out that packet.
Right.
But as they're trickling in, by Thursday, we may have more people, and that's why we update
Right. So
our presentation.
my
to
question is,
include-
right before this meeting in the morning, can we get an email updated that meeting, your paper's up to date, so we're up to date and not, when we get in the computers, which is sent us in our package. That's not an updated,
Yeah, we
you get
could,
me?
yes.
I'd like to get that, it's updated, because the package that we get here is the same package we had 2 weeks ago, a week ago. But if we're sitting here,
Because that's the one that's published. That's the one that's published. I mean, that is what
Yeah.
gets
I agree.
put on the net. So we don't take down the uploaded package and update,
Yeah, I agree, I get you.
the item.
But I think
But-
we deserve to get one that particular day, it's updated right before the meeting, or that morning, so we can just make sure.
Maybe just
I like
like
to see
the
it.
presentation that she already has,
Yeah.
just email it to us that day.
That day.
Or have that loaded here.
It's not that morning. I mean, we're updating these presentations till the afternoon. So,
That's what I'm saying, that updated.
Well, and what you might be able to do is just update the presentation we have before us. When you all come in, this very presentation I'm looking at here still has a 0-0, but hers doesn't. When she's flashing it up there on the screen, she's giving me aerial view, staff comments.
it should have,
It should be the same.
it's the same.
Should be the same.
The presentation that we present here is what she's seeing.
So
I
the
think
Now,
updated,
now,
it's like a PDF, like a,
so the updated
so that we
numbers
can scroll
The
through,
updated numbers
It's given-
is what's
given-
presented here.
given verbally here.
but not in our packet.
No.
The packet that you're seeing is what's online, right? And that was published on Friday. So the packet is the most current information as of Friday. The presentation has the most current information as of this afternoon.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you saw. That's what you always see, is what she's seeing, what the presentation has the most current information as of this afternoon.
We're
I
not
think the
disagreeing with
question-
you.
I think
We
the
just want to
question
see
was-
that packet before the meeting.
You want to see the updated number of for and against?
We want to see, yeah.
That's what he's asking for. Is,
There's
if there's an
times.
updated number of for and against.
There's
For-
times where we receive, responses around like 4:30 or even 4:50.
So usually the updated number is given to us at the end of the presentation. Usually that's when the updated number is given, if asked or if told, so. If it's changed.
On the presentation, you'll see the latest and greatest. That's what she has, that's what we all have.
So the presentation I have here, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
on item 7A, for example, says, letter sent to surrounding property owners 5, in favor 0, opposed 0. Is that match what you have as well? Or do,
Well,
should it?
this
It
is,
should. It
shouldn't,
should.
no, it shouldn't match, because
Well-
this was published, this is your PDF that was published on the website.
If there is no responses by today there, then.
right, so for those items that were presented today, as of when the PowerPoint was closed off late this afternoon, that's the numbers we had. We had.
And that's what I had before me
Right.
here. Not what she's presenting, but I have a different one here.
I don't understand what's different.
You're lost.
It's the same. I don't get it.
No, I think,
Am
no,
am I
no,
not
I think she's talking
tracking?
about
Yes,
the number
to
of
clarify,
against.
I think
That can change during the
I
week.
have to switch
But-
inputs.
What she presented is the same as what's in the
No.
packet.
yes, but they want to know if there's an updated number of for and against.
No,
So, yeah.
no, the presentation is the latest and greatest.
Right. And I don't have that on my screen unless I switch screens. It's not on my agenda that we have before us.
Because what's before you is the packet that was published on Friday.
So we want her presentation on my screen. Just kind of basic. 'cause
You
that-
had it on your screen when we presented it.
No, we have the
Usually
Friday
it's
PDFs.
Oh, no. You're talking about us switching inputs to what she's presenting there and what I have on my screen are two different things. I have to manually come in and switch mine to see what she's got on her overhead versus it already
Yes.
being loaded here. It's not loaded here.
Yes, that's correct. You would need to switch screens. Yes,
But we have to
that's
follow,
how, that's
but I follow my agenda,
by default, that's how they, that's
but
how
my
it's
agenda
supposed
is
to be.
basically a full packet. And
I'm
that's what
sorry?
My agenda's a full packet, that's what I'm reading.
Yeah, you're seeing the staff reports, you're not seeing what we call the presentation.
Correct.
The presentation is the PowerPoint presentation, which is not in the packet. That's nowhere in the packet. It's not in the Friday packet, it's not in any packet. It is, separate. It is what we present at the meeting. So, yes, but they are the same. The presentation that she shows is when, the same one that you would see if you change the inputs.
Okay,
All right. Yeah, but it's not updated.
it's not, but okay,
We get it.
we'll get it.
Totally
We'll talk
lost.
later.
I don't understand what's not updated.
We'll talk later.
It's
Motion
one
to adjourn.
presentation.
Motion to
It's
adjourn.
just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Motion to
One-
adjourn.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ask you one more question. Just a reminder, can you remind us for items like 6 and 7 that we had on the slide, for city council, like introduction of ordinance, final reading, if we are, like if P and Z commission denies an item, how many council members does it take to approve it or like to overturn? What is it called?
5,
5. It changed, right, from 4 to 5.
yes.
And
No,
that-
it changed from
6.
6, well, it's a
Oh.
supermajority, so I guess it would be 7, right? There was always that big discussion
Yeah,
and,
the mayor
and,
is in it.
yeah, all of that. But
So
it's whatever this, it used to be the supermajority, and now
Now it's
it's
just majority.
just simple majority.
Simple
Now
majority.
it's 5.
Yeah, majority.
For what kind of cases? For
If
zoning?
planning and zoning recommends denial.
Zoning
Okay.
cases.
Just for zoning cases, it takes the majority.
All the cases that the planning and zoning commission acts on, they go to council.
Oh, okay.
That go to council. So I plats they don't, but,
Yeah,
okay.
okay, I was just wondering. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Motion-
But just to be clear, supermajority is still required if we get more than the 20% within the 200-foot
Respondents.
radius.
The 20% of the, okay.
Correct. The
Okay.
for or against, in favor or opposed.
Really?
Just to make it clear as mud. There you go.
I actually didn't know that.
Oh, and one last question, again, you all are still pending that presentation that Roland was gonna bring back to us, correct?
What presentation?
On the fees.
Oh, no. They
Roll it back.
decided to move forward to go to put it in the code of ordinances. So it went forward to council.
Oh, so you all just bypassed it altogether?
Well, they're not gonna change it in the land development code, so.
I'm just joking. The reason I was gonna ask was if y'all are still making that presentation, this is a great opportunity for you to come back and tell us what it would cost to do 2 submittals a month instead of the 1.
All right.
I'd still like to see what costs you all would bear to have to do that. Because again, I think that it's something we and others would pitch to the development community and those who want to see that happen. Sure, we can give you under the submittal, but it's gonna cost.
But I guess just to be clear, it would not shorten the time. It wouldn't shorten the time. It would still be a 2.5-month process.
Agreed, but
It's just,
Well, not necessarily.
you wouldn't, have, what is it? You wouldn't have to wait to submit.
well, but again,
And you don't have to wait to submit. You can submit
so if I miss my submittal date on the 1st, let's assume, when can I submit again?
on the next first.
But why can't I submit on the 15th? That shortens it, doesn't it?
Well, no, it does, it shortens your wait time, but it doesn't shorten your time.
The process time
Of
is
the
gonna be.
process.
Yeah, the process is gonna be 60 days, let's just assume for the moment. But I don't have to wait the extra 15 days to submit. I can submit on the 15th. I submit on the
So
first
you
one.
could have submitted
I could have. but-
prior to, right?
True, again.
Meet
but-
your deadline.
Yeah,
Meet your deadlines,
right?
but I'm saying if there were 2 windows,
And to be fair, I mean, we do work with our applicants pretty, we're not very hard and fast. We do work with them quite a bit with regard to, we do get incomplete submittals pretty frequently. and we submit, we, sort of work with them to try to get a complete submittal as soon as we can prior to
But there was an issue with annexations at one time as well, right? We only had one window for annexations at one point.
That's correct.
And now we have
Two. Yeah.
okay, so, okay.
Motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Commissioner
Second.
Garcia, second by Commissioner Blanes. All in favor?
Aye.
Against, motion carries, we're adjourned.
Okay.